morning. This is the Lehman case, Team 4 discussion presentation. My name is Ashley Reyes. We also have Cynthia Zaragoza, Manuel Cano, and Jennifer Vang presenting today. Next slide, please. So my slide is on the Groupon case. So my first impression of the CEO, which is Andrew Mason, was that he described himself as like an atypical CEO. And throughout his interviews, especially with the 60-minute interview, he even admitted publicly that he is like a non-traditional and like informal type of CEO. And his involvement with the Groupon case was really like just he pursued a rapid expansion for the company. And that caused a lot of like aggressive accounting practices, along with conducting a lot of inadequate financial oversight. Um, Throughout his interviews, he kind of did present himself a bit as like inexperienced, and honestly, a lot of his um, body language was just a little like immature for me. He also minimized a lot of his failures. He lacked an incredible amount of accountability. And when he was being held accountable by the interviewer, he deflected a lot and he kind of just became like a little overconfident in himself, despite being pointed out all of the flaws. And he was quite dishonest, like publicly to the stakeholders, just like to everybody in general. The next slide, please. Oh, okay, next slide, please. Thank you. I think that's what it was. Okay, so because there was like a lot of lack of accountability, um, his he actually lacked a lot of contrition. Like there did not seem to be any type of remorse or guilt. I think the only thing that kind of showed or he exhibited was that he felt annoyed that he got caught and is trying to be held accountable for his actions. And another thing I like to mention is that there was like a lot of detachment, and there was just a huge gap in corporate governance along with effective leadership. He did not know how to lead his company. And that kind of an example of that would just be like the corporate-wide email that he sent to his staff that lacked a lot of accountability and kind of just passing it off as if like, oh, this is not a big deal. This is just like something that's gonna like roll over. That was just my general like an analysis of that. Next slide, please. Oh, and I'll be handing it off to Cynthia. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll be handing it off to Manuel.
Thank you. And so I picked FTX just because I was really interested in it. I'm a big football sports guy, and I saw Tom Brady last year. He was up in arms about losing all this money, 30 million. They're at the bottom of the slide. And the founder was Sam Bankman Fried. And he just doesn't even look like a CEO. His interview was very quirky. He was just nervous. He acted like he was really sorry. But when you look at everything that happened with that company, they were fast moving and trying to grow really fast. And then they were in bed with it, with the company he created as well, which was Almenda. And he was the co-founder of that. And so, yeah, they were set up to fail from the get-go just because the way I think he was even dating the CEO of the other company. So they were like secretly borrowing money from it to fund his second company. And, FTX was a crypto company, so it's kind of made up. The money's not really there. So the investors' money that were investing, they were using that to inflate their numbers, not only on the FTX, but also on his other company that and yeah, just looking at him, he, doesn't even have a haircut. He doesn't even comb his hair or anything like that. He's just kind of quirky. And the one thing he said in the interview when they asked him about what went wrong, he just said he made a big mistake, and that was kind of his way of saying sorry, I guess. And they even asked him if he would give up his money to pay back all the investors, and he kind of said he would leave that up to the court to decide, and he'd follow whatever the court said. And you could go ahead, and I'll pass it over to Cynthia now.
Sorry, Cynthia, you're muted.
Yeah, I think you're muted, Cynthia.
I am so sorry. I was ready to start, but so I had Silicon Valley Bank CEO Greg Becker. I believe he had like an innovative and growth-oriented leadership style. He focused on making SVB the main bank for startups and tech companies and was willing to take significant risks to grow the bank quickly. However, I believe he played a major role in the collapse as well because sometimes there's a lot of risk with companies growing so rapidly, and I think that he didn't think it all the way through. The intention was there for sure, but he followed through with it quite correctly. SVB's large investments in long-term government securities became problematic as interest rates rose and they began to create liquidity sorry, issues. Management also failed to properly manage these risks, and a sudden withdrawal of 42 billion um, in deposits led regulators to shut down banks. So in terms of personality, I believe Becker was resilient and determined, and he's known for community involvement, like fundraising for Best Buddies through cycling events. But regarding responsibility, I think overall, he did publicly acknowledge his role as a CEO and apologize to the employees, clients, shareholders, and everyone, and expressed that he was truly sorry for the bank's failure. But I think also he did not raise any concerns or warnings about the risky strategies before the collapse. Like he took accountability, but it didn't happen until after the fact. So I think that was where there was a little bit like downfall on that. I believe that I think that he knew that there was a lot of risk, and I think he just wasn't really open and honest with everyone he should have been. I know like not everyone needs to know, but I think definitely there's stakeholders and people involved that should have known of these potential risks. And I think he kind of like brushed those under the rug, but I don't think he realized how much could go wrong if it went wrong. I think he was just banking on the fact that like, no, we're going to grow rapidly and it's going to be good. And I'm just going to like turn a blind eye to all the risks. So it took him, I think, a while. He did acknowledge, and I feel like he was truly sorry for everything, but I just think like a bummer because he took accountability till after the fact and he never like raised those concerns or warned anyone about like what could have happened. And I really truly believe that he knew. But that's pretty much all I have. Next slide.
So I had Richard S. Full Jr. He's CEO for the Lehman Brothers, and he was nicknamed the Gorilla of Wall Street just because of his very intimidating appearance, as you can see in that photo. That was him in court, and he does not look like the most friendliest guy to begin with. A lot of people were always intimidated by him. And his leadership style was very like top-down approach. Like he is almost in a sense kind of like a dictator. He didn't really like to listen to what other people had to say. So because of that, he, just made really bad decisions and never looked into feedback from his team, which eventually led to the downfall, as we know, of Lehman Brothers. So instead of, listening to them, he would just focus more on short-term profits, and he didn't really listen to any of them for anything. And so, part of his personality too is that he's just very assertive, charming, a lot very self-centered though. A lot of people did make notes about that when it came to him. He wasn't apologetic for anything that happened to the downfall of the company too. He felt horrible, but he just felt like I'm not responsible for any of this too. Like this was not my fault. And he even went went on later to blame the US federal government to say like, oh, like they never bailed us out, but they bailed out all these other big banks. Like we were left to fend on our own. So he also claimed to like, I need a crystal ball to like predict this bankruptcy. Like I didn't think it was going to happen. So he's not the type of person to take accountability for himself, and he was just really intimidating and I think overall greedy. He just did not care in the end of, what happened to Lehman Brothers, and now he's actually working at a different company too. So he's, still living his life, doing his own thing in the business world. But now that we've all shared a little bit about our CEOs, I'm gonna move forward with discussion time. Um, Manuel, I know you were talking a little bit about the FTX case and about Sam and how he wasn't very much like a CEO. I kind of like looked into his stuff too, and I thought it was interesting that he has like the highest set bailout bond. Like it was like $250 million for him to be like released from I think like prison when they arrested him. But I don't know. Like, I just noticed like the overall theme of this was like a lot of the CEOs are like pretty oddly greedy and they just don't care about what their companies think. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I feel like they're all kind of the same. They all kind of say they're sorry, or but they never saw it coming. When anybody in the right mind would know, like, what you're doing is illegal and not ethical, so you should know your company is going to crash and burn when stuff starts to leak out.
I agree. I think at some point too, they all shared the whole like not taking accountability for their actions type thing. But I kind of appreciate how those similar leadership skills or just leadership types ultimately like failed in different industries. So that kind of just like shows that you can try leading in different ways, but if it's not with like honesty, transparency, and like in good faith, then that's kind of like a common denominator that would lead to a failed uh a failed like organization or entity.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially with what you said, Ashley, on transparency, I think was a big one because especially for mine, I felt like he was very optimistic, but I'm like, there's no way. Like, I think at the end of the day, like you choose to like not be transparent about certain things because you know the risk. And I think that's where in a lot of our situations, like that's where they went south because they chose to not be transparent about specific things and whether or not it could have gone great or gone or obviously like how they did went bad. It was like I wonder how much of a difference would it have made had they been transparent. Like would someone be able to bring in an outside perspective? Would it have not gone as bad or would it have been preventable? Like I don't know.
I kind of wonder too if it's like an ego issue thing, because it's kind of like, they're CEOs, they're like the top dog of their company. But, because of that, they just chose not to listen back to their teams. They're not heeding any warnings. They're just kind of like, I know what I'm doing. I can lead this ship. And so sometimes I feel like I wonder if they feel like they're just invincible and they could just like sweep stuff under the rug. And then, with accounting, sometimes it's easy to like manipulate numbers to make it appear in a certain way to kind of be like, well, this is how our company's actually doing. So, it's perfectly fine. But I think in other cases too, like, these CEOs they just think, I just feel like, in my opinion, they just feel like they were never going to get caught. And then they did. And now they have to kind of pay for those consequences no matter what. Did you guys have anything else to add though?
No, just like exactly what you said. They believe they can right the ship, and that they're going to be able to fix everything before they get caught or anything goes south.
All right, all right. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, you guys, for, just sharing your CEOs and what you researched for each of them. We're going to go ahead and wrap up this discussion time. I hope we all just kind of learned a little bit more about each other's CEO and then just, the overall theme for just the downfalls of each of these companies. So thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.